Sie hören Sport und Musik.
Das Spiel ist aus! Deutschland ist Weltmeister!
In a world where fans fight over whether to call it football, or soccer, two German men defy the odds and call it Fußball. Bringing you inside the German-American football experience. And now, here are your hosts, the Schnitzel Boys.
Yeah! It's like an old friend, our open, isn't it?
It is. It's good to see. It's been forever, right?
It's been a long time. I don't
we
know.
only missed 1 week because of the holidays, but it feels like it's been a long time.
You know, I don't always listen to it intently. You know, sometimes I'm thinking about other stuff. But whenever I do, I just am so. That guy did such a good job.
I know. We should get him to do new stuff.
We should do another. Yeah, we should do a new one.
Yeah.
And bring him back. Anyway, hello, Stefan. Happy New Year.
Hello, Bjorn. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. I was going to say, what is it? Herzlichen neuen Jahr.
Frohes Neues.
Frohes Neues Jahr.
Where in the Ruhrgebiet where I'm from, people say Frohes Neues.
Frohes Neues. That makes sense. Now here's a question. In German, New Year's Eve is Silvester.
Yeah.
Right? What is that? Did they name it after the cat? Why is New Year's Day Silvester?
I don't think.
They like that cat's funny. Suffered succotash. Let's name our New Year's holiday after that dang cat.
I don't think that's it.
Is that not the origin story?
I mean, it might as well be because I have no alternate explanation. New Year's Eve is Silvester. And
Silvester is Silvesterferien.
And Neujahr is the first.
Neujahr makes sense to me because it's simply New Year.
It's also a thing that I had to get used to is that here people say Happy New Year even before. So basically, like after Christmas, you start saying Happy New Year to people, even though it's not actually the New Year yet. That is not a thing.
I guess.
That is not a thing in Germany. In Germany, you say Happy New Year after, and before you say Guten Rutsch.
Basically. Guten Rutsch.
Guten Rutsch.
Good slide?
Good slide.
Good transition?
Basically, get in, or people say, again in the Ruhrgebiet, somebody will say, "Oh, komm gut rein." Get in well. Like
get in well.
Wishing sort of a good transition, I guess, into the new year.
So let me translate this for the Americans. Germans go to each other between the 26th and the 31st, and they're just like, "Don't die, no dying, stay alive for another 5 days."
I guess, or like, or just I hope you have a good New Year's. I guess when we say here Happy New Year, we also.
The whole
we refer to the transition as well.
Right.
It's included. It's the new year and the transition is all kind of encompassed in this wish of a happy new year. So it's not just the new year that should be happy, but also the new year, basically getting into it. So however, in German, because us Germans like to be precise, so we make a distinction between the transition and the year. So
it's engineer's mentality. It's an engineer's mentality.
Basically. So you don't wish Happy New Year until the new year is there. And then
because it's logic.
I suppose.
And logic in Germany is king. Or as my dad would yell every 3 lines, logisch.
Ja, logisch. Ja, ist ja logisch.
Ja,
logisch. Yeah.
Means, that's logic. That'd be like if Americans could be like, of course, that's logic.
Yeah, obviously.
Logic.
Obviously.
No, logisch, Germans, that's a German word. Logic is a German word. That's for us. In the United States, we never use the term logic. Try to think. Every now and then, if we want to be fancy, we'd be like, well, it's a logical conclusion.
Yeah. Gesundheit.
Speaking of the holidays, Dankeschön. Gesundheit. I am actually 99% okay right now. But on the way out of my
You got the
family, I didn't get COVID, thankfully. But I picked up a little bug that was going around and I was stuffy for the last few days. So I got my residuals now. I'll sneeze every now and then, and I sound a little stuffy if that's the case. It's because I'm
you're
getting
a
over
little
it.
nasal. I hear a little nasal emphasis. Well, more like a little bit like this. But, I mean,
it's logic. That's
I'm
how someone should say
exaggerating.
logic.
I'm exaggerating your
I'll exaggerate with
your
you.
nasality mildly.
Bjorn, that's a logical conclusion, actually. That's pretty logical.
So I came to the logical conclusion previously that you perhaps were getting over something.
Yeah, which is true. Thankfully, it wasn't COVID, but it knocked my sister and brother-in-law out. It started with my niece. She brought it from school to my sister and brother-in-law. And then my sister and brother-in-law got it.
How old is she?
My niece just is in the middle of 5th grade, I believe.
So she changed. Oh, elementary school. Okay.
It's elementary school. And then I'm visiting them. So we were supposed to do a bunch of stuff, but they were sick. My brother-in-law had to call out of work and they were in bed all day. Like it really knocked the whole family. And I'm only there for a few days. So I'm like, well, I'm going to go over there and see them anyway. I'm like, I got a strong enough immune system. So I go over there, hang out with them, and sure enough, I get
not quite strong enough.
And it enacts itself on the day I fly back. So this is Florida.
Well,
I'm flying back to LA, and I had, let's just say, I had to spend way too much uncomfortable time in the airplane bathroom, which isn't fun for anybody.
Wait, this had a digestive component?
Yes. There was a side effect that I had a preview of, and I'm sitting in the plane. It's a 5-hour flight, 5 hour 20 minutes from Florida to LA, and I wasn't. The last 2 hours were left. I was like, "Hold it, no, don't hold it." So I went, and like it was not comfortable, and I think I was in there for 30 minutes. And you know what it's like to be in an airplane bathroom? It's tiny, and there's probably a line of people outside waiting.
Yeah, and they judge you when you come out. They judge
you, and everyone's sitting and pointing at you. And while I was in the toilet, I heard the plane announce, just a reminder, we have two additional bathrooms in the back of the plane.
Oh, I thought they were like, just a reminder, we have a 15-minute time limit.
Just a reminder to everybody know we have a 15-minute time limit.
Just a reminder.
Yeah.
Just a reminder, you don't, your seat is your seat,
your
and
seat
not
is
the
your
toilet seat.
Toilet seat. So that was a lot of fun. That was my New Year's.
Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry.
But I'm getting over all that.
Have you seen? I mean, I guess this is actually somewhat topical because there's German people in this. Did you see the movie Triangle of Sadness?
No, I've never even heard of it. What is Triangle?
It's very good. I just watched it last night. It's it's sort of a European co-production. It's by a Swedish director, and there are some old school German actresses in it. Iris Berben, who is like a major sex symbol in my youth.
Vicky Berlin. Is she a German person, or does it just have a name as a German
I don't know who she is, but there's also Zuni Mellis, who also
she played the role of Chief Stu Paula, whoever that is.
Oh no, that's Vicky Berlin. I don't know if she's German or not. No, she's I remember her character. I don't know where she's from. I did not know of her before. Anyway, the reason I just thought of this is that this movie is basically, it's sort of the White Lotus on like cranked up to 11 in terms of sort of, I mean, a lot of this movie is set on this yacht where this bunch of very rich, wealthy people are vacationing on this yacht, and at some point there is some bad weather and maybe some food poisoning. Anyway, it like all combines to an absolutely apocalyptic, like, I don't know how long this sequence was, but 8-10 minutes. 20 minutes, I don't know, but it was
everyone having diarrhea.
Just unbelievable. It was like the Saving Private Ryan of vomit and diarrhea. I mean, it was. So
should I watch the movie or not?
I thought it was great. I really recommend it. I thought, not just because of this, but that just made me think of it.
Cool.
I think it's a very, very good. I thought it was very good.
Oh, a Triangle of Sadness. I just heard about. I've never heard of it. I just heard about it. Right. Woody Harrelson's in it.
Woody Harrelson's in it. That's right.
Iris Berben. You said? Yeah,
Iris Berben, yeah, who is now
she's
72
pretty
years
hot.
old.
72. Damn.
Yeah, but she's
she's pretty hot.
yeah, she's so it was fun to see. I mean, the cast is excellent, and yeah, it's a great. I recommend it. Even though I was reminded of it because of your distress.
Well, I watched. Oh God, I'm about to sneeze again. Yeah, I watched a few movies over the holidays. Which I watched Ticket to Paradise. Do you know that one? With George Clooney and Julia Roberts.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I mean, I didn't see it. I'm aware of it.
It was in theaters like a month ago, and now it's available free on streaming. That's not a good sign. It's not a good sign. We knew ahead of time. Like, that's not a good sign. But let's watch it anyway. And my mom was probably into it. Me and my sister were just making fun of it the whole time. Poor my mom. Julia Roberts is old, and she has not aged super gracefully. I mean, she looks great for her age in general, but like Sandra Bullock, on the other hand, still looks exactly the same. Julia Roberts, like, she hasn't been in movies in a while, and you can kind of tell why. Certain people age out a little bit. She was there. However, not to be ageist, the whole movie was ridiculous. The whole concept of the movie. Now, this goes back to my German logic brain. So,
disbelief. You were unable to suspend disbelief.
No, the movie manipulates you into rooting for the bad guy, and it's like, no, the bad guys were right. So in this movie, now you're a parent, so I want you to go through this, okay?
Okay.
The story goes: George Clooney and Julia Roberts are both very, very well off, pretty old divorcees, and they have to sit next to each other at their daughter's NYU law school graduation, or whatever one. Maybe one of the big ones, Stanford law school graduation, or whatever. And then their daughter gets her law degree, which they paid for, by the way, at a private institute. Like, NYU is the most expensive school in the world, I think.
A state education at Ivy League prices.
Something like that. And she then goes to Bali for fun with her friend.
The law school person.
Law school girl and her friend, comic relief Billy Lord, played by Billy Lord, Carrie Fisher's daughter. They go to Bali for fun. Anyway, the first guy she sees picking seaweed, she falls in love with, and they decide to get married right away on vacation. Okay. So George Clooney and Julia Roberts so the whole premise is these divorcees who hate each other now have to fly to Bali and convince their daughter to not marry this random seaweed farmer and go back to America and pursue her very expensive law degree that she got. So that's the premise. And as an audience, we're supposed to believe that that's a bad idea and that we should root for her to stay in Bali and follow through with this marriage of this seaweed farmer that she's only known for 1 month, by the way.
Following her heart.
Yes. And you know, it's not a complicated plot. They spend a lot of time together, and what do you know? Spoilers. George Clooney and Julia Roberts fall back in love, right? Is that a big spoiler for anybody? And that's just a rom-com. And the end of the movie is the two of them fly back home in love, and their daughter begins her career as like a seaweed farmer, and she like waves them goodbye. That's the end of the movie. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, all of that was bad. I'm rooting for them to
for
win.
The law degree. You're rooting for her to be a lawyer.
She has to go back to the United States because literally she's like, I'm going to be happy working the seaweed farms. She has to be in the water working 16 hours a day, picking seaweed all day. It's like, right? Or am I wrong? That's a bad decision. So what now? Now ask you, if that was your daughter, what would you do? What would Bjorn do?
Well, I probably wouldn't intervene too much. I don't, I'm not that kind of a parent, I don't think.
Well, how much did the law degree cost?
Sorry to
$100,000 a year.
I mean,
probably.
I like it.
It's $300,000 cash.
At this
You
current
drop.
moment, it's difficult for me to imagine either of my children with a law degree.
There's a little suspension of disbelief.
Most likely,
but you can imagine expensive undergraduate.
They could just skip to the seaweed part.
So your thing is convincing your children to go to the seaweed farms early. Skip the college, go straight to the seaweed farm, so we can skip the college
and save and I'll keep the law degree money. Yeah, I think I'd be all right with that.
All right, that's probably the most sensible answer.
I mean, I'm not a I don't think
that actually does make the most sense to me.
I'm not a big I'm not going to promote a law degree very heavily with my children. I don't think.
Would you promote a marriage of some guy you met 2 months ago in a totally different culture?
Probably
you don't
not.
understand?
No, probably not.
If you're from somewhere else, it's a totally different culture.
Yeah, that also seems. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm thinking of my children very specifically,
right.
and this is not.
Imagine your child goes to Bali for fun and calls you. It's like, oh, I'm going to get married to a guy and stay here for the rest of my life. Be a seaweed farmer.
I mean,
what would you do?
I would definitely go check it out, but I would I probably with an open mind. I think I would have an open mind.
All right. Well, you're better than George Clooney is.
I mean, I don't think we probably don't have a lot in common.
You and George Clooney in that movie? Maybe. I think he was an architect or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all the same. She ran the Tate Modern, that big gallery here in LA.
Okay.
He was a superstar architect.
Yeah, fancy.
And she was dating this 30-year-old pilot who's really hot. And the whole time we're like, he can do better. Why is he dating this random old
man? You're very down on Julia Roberts. I don't know. I'm feeling a little protective here.
You're right. I would date Julia Roberts too. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. This is the Schnitzel Boys movie review. Brought to you.
I got some more. I saw more good stuff. I saw the Banshees. I saw the Banshees of Inisherin. I thought that was good.
Yeah, that's one of those things where I'm like, I should probably watch that, right? Everybody is talking about it. I can't think of anything more Irish, right? It's a very Irish movie.
It's very Irish. It left me sort of sad in a very specifically Irish way.
Nice.
Yeah, but that was solid. Very good acting.
I saw Bullet Train today.
Oh, I did too.
Fun movie.
I saw that a week ago, and I was reminded of it by Paige, my wife, earlier, and I realized that I had forgotten everything about it.
Yeah, it's a quick one. You know what's funny?
I enjoyed it. I retained. I was happy to watch it. I thought it was fun, but I retained no memory of it.
Well, I watched it in like 3 sittings, and I watched it today making lunch, and I kept pausing, rewinding. Like the whole movie, I had to watch it in sections, and it's a lot of information to retain, and a lot of it doesn't mean. And the other thing is, most of the information in the movie isn't important. Like, you don't have to retain it.
Right,
At the end of the day, it's just a bunch of people beating the crap out of each other. That's really all you need to care about.
Yeah.
So it's a fun movie. It's a quick movie, but it's like, I think like you said, it's forgettable. It's one of those things that you watch, but you're gonna forget. Very bright, very colorful. A lot of good actors in it. Michael Shannon, Brad Pitt.
Yeah, all fun stuff. Right. Like it doesn't make a whole. Like it just kind. Yeah, it didn't really.
The whole thing makes no sense. Yeah. The whole thing makes no sense. It's one of the So I was watching, but it wasn't an episode.
It wasn't quite as. Sorry, just since this is our movie review episode, I would like to weigh in.
Please.
And say that. Yeah, it wasn't. It all wasn't quite fun enough in a like it wanted to be like those Tarantino movies or like
Guy Ritchie is what I was thinking.
or Guy Ritchie
Very
or like,
Guy
and
Ritchie.
it wasn't quite up. It wasn't quite there, I thought.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was like, this is like, it needs to find its own voice. It's just emulating better voices.
Yeah.
And if I could also be so bold, I like the idea of it. If you gave me that movie to redo, I would have maybe changed. If I would have simplified the plot a little bit,
right.
I would have. I don't know what I would have done, but I don't know. It was a fun movie. I like good action flicks. It's a fun movie. It's one of those. There's so many of those. It's like In Bruges. Wasn't that like kind of movie like that?
Yeah,
Where it's like a bunch of.
that's the same director as the Banshees of Inisherin.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Right. Actually, I've never seen it in Bruges, I think. What's the one with Clive Owen and he's a hitman and there's like Bugs Bunny? Is that in
What?
Bruges?
I
I don't know.
don't
There's
know.
so many of those movies. I mix them all up. Don't listen to me. Anyway, I was about to talk about Abbott Elementary because when I go home, I also watch
Okay.
TV that I never really watch. And the reason it brought me, because it was Bullet Train, it's that thing where things get too complicated and you just have to pause and think, like, I don't buy the storyline. You know what I mean? It just gets you out of it.
Right.
Anyway, so there's an episode of Abbott Elementary, which is supposed to be a new fun show. I think it's from the same producers of Parks and Rec and The Office and all that. It's about elementary school. Have you seen it?
No.
It's network TV. I haven't watched network TV in years. I only watch it around the holidays now.
Yeah.
But my folks are watching it. So the whole premise of the episode I watched is that the principal got this new juice contract where she has all these new juices that have 5% less sugar and 2 more ounces per bottle. And it was a new contract. And the one teacher was like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't know why you're doing it. And she's like, who cares? It's just a new juice contract. And then the whole point of the episode was all of the kids now have to pee at the same time and broke the toilets of the school because of those extra 2 ounces
Oh, okay.
per bottle. And there's a scene where there's lines of kids in the hallway having to pee. And I'm just like, this is a ridiculous premise, right? I don't buy this premise.
It's not
Do you buy that
logical.
premise? That's not logical. Kind logic.
God.
You think it's
9.
logical, but not everyone has the same size bladder. Also, kids bring food from school, from home. I don't understand the
Listen.
whole concept of
Network comedy is hard. Like there's limited topics.
according to
you
that.
know.
That looked really easy, actually.
A lot of
I
the
could write that crap.
I mean, a lot of the good premises are taken.
Bjorn, these new balls with the new rubber, it's harder on their hands. There's rashes on all of their hands. There's lines out the nurse's office. I could write that crap. Kidding me? I could make up dumb storylines.
You should.
That are not real.
Who's stopping you?
Nobody. My integrity stopping me. But other than that, nobody.
Your integrity.
But anyway, speaking of movies with a
Speaking of
mysterious
integrity.
ending,
Oh,
every day I get a message on my Facebook, and it says, discount only. Buy tickets to USA Bosnia, January 25th at the Bank of California. The U.S. men's national team has 2 friendlies coming up in 3 weeks here in the LA area. I can go to both games.
why don't you go? Are you going?
Yeah, probably, maybe. The tickets are $20 right now, so I should. In fact, I'll probably after this thing, I'll probably go buy them. But I think it's Bosnia and then Colombia, right? I think those are the 2 teams.
I can figure that out. I should be able to figure that out very quickly.
I'm like 99% certain that's the case, and it's at
the
culmination.
No, it's Serbia and Colombia.
Are you sure it's not Bosnia? If you're seeing Serbia, that's Serbia.
According to what?
That's not the U.S. women, is it? Maybe it's the U.S. women.
No.
Well,
I'm looking at.
The U.S. has 2 friendlies at the end of this month.
I mean, here at the
Serbia and Colombia.
on the 25th and the 28th, it's Serbia and Colombia, according to MLSsoccer.com.
No, then you're right.
Website.
I know. I think Bosnia was last year. I guess I got confused. I thought they played them twice now. Good. So Serbia and Colombia.
They used to be the same. This used to be the same country.
Yeah, many years.
Used to all be Yugoslavia.
Yeah, when I go to the game, I'll remind him that. I'll go to the bench. I'll be like, aren't you guys all Bosnians? Don't you guys answer to Bosnians? Anyway, but riddle me this. Mm-hmm. Every January, we have Camp Cupcake, where we have the head coach get a selection of all the bright young MLS Americans together, all the best, and then they train for a couple weeks in California somewhere, and then they play these 2 friendlies, right? Mm-hmm. Riddle me this. Who is the U.S. men's national team coach? Who is organizing this? Because it has been radio silence from U.S. soccer since the Netherlands.
Oh, yeah. I guess we don't.
We've heard nothing.
We've heard. I guess it's up in the
Greg
air. Right?
Berhalter's contract expired yesterday. We know that. We didn't see any news about resigning. We just heard nothing. All we know is contract is expired. We know that. And today, Fabrizio Romano, Fabrom, who's like one of those Twitter heroes.
He is.
Tom Beam.
I think saying one of those Twitter heroes is doing him in jail. He is he's the Twitter hero. He has
in a land where there are not a lot of heroes, in a land of darkness and uncertainty and toxicity. Every now and then someone shines through, and one of those men, or like you said, the man.
He's completely changed the game. We used to like puzzle over certain rumors, or is this real or is it not? Now it's like if Fab says it is, it is.
So the shining Twitter soccer white.
Yeah, what did he say? I don't know. I don't think I read this.
He tweeted, I think 3 hours ago. The first bit of news we've heard since Netherlands. He said the U.S. men's national team, the U.S. Soccer Federation, is reaching out to certain agents that represent certain foreign coaches.
Oh.
That's all it said. So very vague, but it's something. Now, if I had to put my Hercule Poirot hat on, I'd have to think that
Benoit Blanc.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see Glass Onion, by the way?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, well, that I need to see next. It's good?
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, yeah.
I love Knives Out. Is it as good as Knives Out?
Then this is it's 88% is good.
All right. Well, that's good enough, I think. So I look forward to Glass Onion. But if I had to put my Benoit Blanc, is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Benny Blanco from the Bronx, Carlito's Way style.
Basically, yeah.
One of those guys. I would say that it seems like the U.S. Soccer is saying goodbye to Greg, or Greg was saying goodbye to him. Either way, I think Greg's probably looking at Europe or something. You know, if I had to put money on it, he'd be in the Eerste Divisie, a small Dutch club, maybe. Or, something. Who knows? So whatever. Maybe Sweden again. Whatever. And I think U.S. Soccer is sniffing some European coaches. I think they maybe made the decision to go European. Go Europe. We haven't heard names of coaches, and it's literally, from what I understand, I think it's just Fabrizio Romano with some binoculars looking through U.S. Soccer headquarters. He saw Ernie Stewart type in transfermarkt. No, he typed in transfermarkt.de, enter, and he clicked on available coaches.
Available coaches.
I think that's what Fabrizio Romano saw, so he tweeted out that.
Yeah, I mean, who? It's not obvious, right? There's no. It's not.
Who the hell? Who?
I mean, the last go around, Greg Berhalter was one of not that many pretty obvious. I mean,
some would say one of one.
I thought he was a pretty obvious. I am not, obviously a lot of people feel like this was a done deal because of nepotism and his brother. I thought he was an obvious candidate, not because of nepotism, just because I thought he was an obvious candidate.
Right.
And
it wasn't crystal clear though. 4 years ago, there was like, how sometimes when it's time for a new manager, it's like crystal clear. Everyone's like, now it's that guy's turn, right? Like when Brazil needed a new coach for years, it's Chiche. Yeah. How come it's been Chiche?
Hansi Flick was pretty obvious.
Flick was pretty. There's a lot of things where it's like that guy's next.
Yeah.
If the U.S., we didn't have that 4 years ago. There was no that guy's next. It was just like, what do we do? Should we get a Mexican coach? Should we get a European coach? One of our MLS coaches? Should it be Oscar Pareja? There's a lot of. It wasn't super clear cut, and it ended up with Greg, and I thought that was fine. I thought it was a decent appointment. And to be clear, by the way, I did reflect on this because there's a huge not Twitter spat, but there's a whole bunch of people being like, ding dong, like his contract is done, the great ding dong, which is dead. And Greg Berhalter had almost a perfect tenure as U.S. men's national team coach. Like, what more was he supposed to win? Like,
I mean, like
he won every title they went up for, and then he took his team to the round of 16. If you got to the quarters or semis, that would have been better. But that means he would have been very much punching above his weight.
They would have had to
punch above their weight.
Build him a statue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
was a round of
and
16 quality team.
taking over a program that was absolutely in shambles. Like
Yep.
had yeah.
Fractured locker room, no players. There was no, the generation was missing.
Yeah. I mean,
lawsuits, equal pay lawsuits, maybe we can talk about in a bit. And like other racism lawsuits, I think, and all sorts
I think,
of
yeah, people, I mean, I don't know. We'll find out. But people might miss him when he's gone. I don't know. Like people were so down on the guy, and I'm not sure what else he could have done.
He won every title,
yeah,
he won all the golds. He got us qualified. Third place, sure. But look who won. Look at Canada. They had the worst tournament. Like, at the end of the day, that doesn't really matter, does it? We learned that getting to the World Cup doesn't really matter how.
I mean, he brought in some heavy hitter dual nationals, recruited a bunch of good guys that weren't sure things. Also expanded the pool. Won the Gold Cup with a B team.
Right.
Beat Mexico a bunch. Yeah. I mean, if this is it for him.
We beat Mexico at home 2-0.
I think
we went to Mexico City and tied him 0-0 with Gio.
He has the best. Yeah. He has the best record. Yeah. The only thing that he compares unfavorably to is that like sort of fantasy universe that a lot of U.S. men's national team Twitter lives in, where the U.S. team blows away all of CONCACAF by double digits every time, and is only needs to play European teams to even get a challenge in any meaningful way. So
it didn't get us to the semis. Didn't knock out Argentina and get to the semis or whatever.
But that's not reality. That's just imagination. And so in the real world, I think Greg Berhalter has done very well. I agree with you.
Yeah. So, but stuff needs to happen. Like camp cupcakes happening, friendlies are happening. So news has to come soon. U.S. Soccer's got to release some sort of statement. What they did release was that on Christmas Day, Kevin Payne died.
Oh, yeah.
Released that. Rest in peace, Kevin Payne, one of those early MLS U.S. Soccer builders. He was an executive for U.S. Soccer for a long time, an executive at D.C. for a long time. And then I think he was even an owner of D.C. United there for a bit. And then he ended up working in youth development for a long time, and he passed away recently. So rest in peace, Kevin Payne. But that's sort of been the only official communique from U.S. Soccer since the World Cup is rest in peace, Kevin Payne. So,
I mean, I would say on the flip side, it's like there's no real rush either. Nothing's really happening. The team is the team. It's not like the task is not the same as 4 years ago. It's not like there's a whole new roster to build, a whole new squad to find. Like things are in place, and if Camp Cupcake is run by an assistant or Dave, what was his name? Dave Sarachan.
They could bring him back for a temporary contract
for a couple months to run this camp. That'd be totally fine. It seems like it is, although we haven't heard this officially, but it seemed like Tyler Adams was saying that, like it's a done deal that the U.S. will play Copa America.
In Copa America, yeah, he definitely mentioned it. I hope like it's a done deal.
That is close to official, perhaps.
And what if we host it? That'd be fun. I'd like that.
All good stuff. And but that's not until that's a year and a half from now. So
in 2016, I went to Ecuador, Haiti, and New Jersey as part of the Copa America Centenario. Really fun game. Parking lot was full of a bunch of Ecuadorians and Haitians, and they were grilling full pigs in grocery carts. Because the old grocery cart grill, put a thing up top.
Yeah, that's great.
It was amazing.
We went to Max and I went to the final, but we had seats way up high.
And, I remember you mentioned it was a little underwhelming,
but
right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, we were just far, far away, so you couldn't.
But you saw Leo Messi play in the final.
But we saw Leo Messi play, and he retired after that game for like a couple weeks. So we were for a few weeks. We were like, oh, we watched Messi's final game for Argentina. Well, he sure is glad he didn't do that. He didn't stick to that plan. And
that was when him and the Argentine Football Federation didn't get along.
Well,
they kept calling him out on all the time.
They abused. I mean, they really abused.
They abused the whole team. He just I remember it was funny. There were stories of them like flying indirect or whatever on an airline. You know, he like called him out for being really corrupt and organizing things very poorly. And he's probably not incorrect. Yeah, shocking. That's right.
These football, these
Yeah.
FAs being that's just crazy. Yeah, anyway, so no real rush. Like if they take a couple months to figure this out, that's totally fine.
Right. So yeah, I'm with you. What's likely is to give some sort of interim or something to do the month, and then we'll move on from there. Maybe they'll wait till the summertime. Who knows? But just keep your eyes
if
peeled
they can't find anybody now that they like, they could give Greg another year or something. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, waiting for the summertime makes sense because that's where you can pick up like a prem manager who got sacked. You know,
it's just right now. It's not a super exciting job for somebody to take because there's nothing going on really for
a couple tournaments, for quite some time,
for
because
quite
there's
a
no
while.
qualifiers.
There's no and like I said, it's not like there's a lot of work to be done recruiting or building the squad. It's like the team's the team.
Yeah, all they have to do for the next 4 years is just bring in the next young whippersnappers that clubs figure out. So like nationally would figure, the next, I don't know, like Taylor Booth, someone like that. You're these young guys who are next, and then maybe, for crying out loud, get Joe Scally a little more involved, and maybe Gio-Reyna a little more involved, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Joe
Scally. I read some interview with him. Basically, he was a little salty about his complete lack of playing time. He said something along the lines of, if you play a lot of minutes in the Bundesliga, you expect to get a chance. But
Joe Scally is from the same cloth as Gio-Reyna. They're old friends. They knew each other in the academy where they probably were the best. They went to Germany, 2 really big clubs in Borussia Dortmund and Borussia Mönchengladbach. And as young teenagers, benched vets and took their spots. You know what I mean? That's health. That's good. Those are 2 good players who did that. And then for them to look at the United States Soccer Federation, and then those people have no space for them, I would be salty too. Like, what do you mean there's no space? Like, what do you mean there's no minutes for me? I benched Stefan Leiner. I can't bench DeAndre Yedlin. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. You and Joe are on the same wavelength. There's something to that.
No, I mean, I agree that I if you had asked me to put some money on Shaq Moore or Joe Scally getting more minutes at the World Cup, I would have probably put my money on Joe. Although on the other hand, he was kind of a bubble guy to even make the squad, right? Because him and Greg were not super tight, and he had some iffy performances.
Joe Scally, you say?
Joe Scally did when he played, and
that's
so
it
wasn't
Greg.
like.
I think Greg just didn't like his attitude. I think, like I'm saying, it's for the same cloth. He criticized him being maybe a little too cocky, just like Gio. He didn't like Gio's attitude. But during the Japan-Saudi Arabia friendlies, Joe Scally was like the only bright light of those matches.
That's true.
Remember?
Yeah, that is
he played
true.
well.
I think, yeah.
And that was our last break before the tournament.
He's gonna play. I mean, he's very young. He's like 19, 20 years old. Yeah.
And that's what we need for this new coach, new favorites or whatever. That's maybe why they want to go European, to lean into
it's
the
like
whole
It's like Hansi Flick hopefully has gotten a chance to know the other players and is not just gonna play his Bayern guys in the future. Maybe anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
That's gonna be interesting to see this coaching situation. I mean, I couldn't even, like, who are these European people? I couldn't even come up with a name.
I'm in the same boat. If someone says, like, you have a blank check to hire anybody, I'm just like, I don't know. A decent... My list would be this.
I mean...
We did Greg right. Like, remember I mentioned, like, Greg was the anti-Klinsmann, and we needed that. We needed a very nerdy, logical, X and O's analyst to make strong decisions to a T and to be tactical. Like, that's what Greg was. He did that. I'm glad we did that. Now what we need next is we need that old school, hard-headed European caretaker manager who's a little simpler. He's not a Pep. I wouldn't take Pep. I would take, I know this is weird. I'm sure they say it. I'd take like a Harry Redknapp or a Roy Hodgson 20 years ago. Not now. Not now. 20 years, like just some no nonsense dude who
Wow,
understands
okay.
high level of play, who doesn't tactical himself out of a game.
It's not enough. It's not enough that we get all the mediocre British announcers. Now we got to get the mediocre British coaches as well.
Okay, so that's why I want to remove names. What we should get, for the sake of why not, because we haven't done this, is a pretty experienced and proven week in, week out, top flight European manager,
but
preferably the English Premier League, because
who
that's
wants
the
the
league
job?
Who
wants that job?
Of those, I don't know.
Like, who could you get? I mean,
I think
this
is my
long term. I think Carlo Ancelotti has these like Canada.
That's what I was saying.
Connections, and so at some point you can imagine him. But like, he's not now. He's not leaving Real Madrid now.
But that's my dream, Carlo Ancelotti.
He'd be great, and that's I mean, that's sort of, it's in the future, but that is plausible on some level, perhaps But
I'm
now,
soured
I mean,
on
who
Roberto Martinez, which was everyone's top choice, including mine.
Oh my God.
I'm pretty soured on it because it's like, you know what? He was in charge of Belgium, which had incredible players
and
for two tournaments, and it was very disappointing.
I don't think he's a great, I don't rate him very highly.
Like the US did better than Belgium this time, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah,
no,
and he
equaled them. It's like,
he did not do very well with this, with what he had. And no, I'm not a fan of his.
But how about this?
I mean, who else would want the job?
David Moyes. How about that? I'm all about David Moyes. I think, have we done this before? He's been doing well with West Ham. Or am I wrong? West Ham's in good shape. Not this. Well, let's say they sack him. I would hire David Moyes in a heartbeat, and I'm sure, and he wants the job.
David Moyes couldn't name like more than 3 players on the team.
He'll learn. But David Moyes is perfect because he has a very, very deep-seated relationship with Tim Howard and Landon Donovan. Everton, the Toffees under him was like America friendly, and Tim Howard has said, "I would die for that man." So David Moyes comes in. Maybe Tim Howard becomes a goalkeeper coach. David Moyes has connections here. We could do worse than David Moyes. We could do worse than David Moyes.
All right.
And David Moyes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel my anti-English bias welling up. But,
how about this? What Bundesliga coach would you choose to be the
Thomas Reis? Well, he's in Schalke now. Thomas Reis should get every job.
How about this? How about Thomas Tuchel to the U.S. men's national team?
That'd be wild. I mean, I think he's good. I don't think he'd do it. Why would he?
No, it's a huge pay cut, and he probably wouldn't leave Europe. He'd stay in Europe.
I can't see him. I can't see him wanting to do it, and it's a weird. But why not? I mean, I think. I think. I like the Greg Berhalter types. I like the younger, energetic, sort of.
And who is that now? Jim Curtin?
A little nerdy. I mean, I think Jim Curtin would be great. I think the potential problem, which a lot of that is with the fan base, but maybe some of it also with the players, is like status thing. Like you need the coach. Maybe you need the coach who has some international pedigree.
There was that report, right, from somewhere. What was it, from The Athletic or something, where there was some player who leaked that in the next 4 years, some of the European-based guys are going to have a problem taking orders from an MLS coach or something along those lines. Maybe not that harsh.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably a little overstated. I think you have to, like in any team, you always have to earn the respect of the players, and it ultimately doesn't really matter where you played or what. But I think maybe a little bit of that, like you could see this in NYCFC when you have somebody like Patrick Vieira come in. People just stand up a little straighter. Like there's definitely a different.
Would Patrick Vieira be a good U.S. men's national team coach? Do you think?
Yeah, he'd be great too, but he's not available either. We would leave Crystal Palace to.
Well, again, it's one of those things. Let's say that we wait till the summer and Crystal Palace and him part ways for mutual consent over the summertime, and he's available. We offer him the contract.
Yeah, I guess I think he'd be great also. Yeah. But I don't think he would want to do it either. I mean, wouldn't think that he would be a candidate. But yeah, that'd be a good choice. I think Jesse Marsh would be good if
a lot of people are clamoring for that. But to be honest, I want him to stick it out in Europe. I mean, if I had to put money on it, he might be
he's
available
not gonna.
this summer.
He would. We'll see how that goes. They just got a point in Newcastle. I don't know.
Thankfully,
but yeah, I mean, I think Jim Curtin would also be great with that little question mark, maybe and it seems like if Fab says so, then he's probably correct in that they're looking for somebody
looking for a
European pedigree. I mean, certainly, like, I think Jim Curtin would be good. I think Caleb Porter would not be it.
Right. I like Caleb Porter, but he's very hit and miss. He's been missing a lot lately. I was a huge fan of Jason Christ back in the day, but he's fallen hard. I don't know what happened to that guy. Jason Christ. You were there when the fall started.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you can see the. You ever see that movie? The movie about NYCFC's first season, Win.
I remember.
Ironically called Win. It's interesting. I mean, it's it's not a great film because it doesn't have a story really. It's like it follows the first season and it was just sort of lackluster and so there's no like triumphant ending or anything like that. But it is sort of an interesting behind the scenes look, and certainly you can see how things went poorly for Jason Christ.
Like, was it his fault or was it his circumstance?
Like
right?
It's just kind of he just had a hard time like communicating with the Villas and the Lampards and these like sort of international types.
Because they know who he is.
And
there's this great video.
Well, it's not just about. I mean, it's partly about status, but it's also just about like he just had a hard. Like there's a scene where he's talking with David Villa through a translator, and it's just not happening.
That's crazy.
And so
even literally communicating, which is
literally, but then also, of course, like it's also there's. But also, it's an
speak
indication
Spanish.
Of a larger.
How do you play in MLS and not speak Spanish? It's like almost unnecessary. But there's this great documentary. New York. Have you seen the Cosmos documentary Once in a Lifetime?
Oh yeah.
Such a good documentary. But there's a scene with Eddie Fermani, who's this, one of those local small guys. One of those NASL in the old days was full of randos. Anyone who had an accent could get a job at the NASL. So Eddie Fermani is the coach of the New York Cosmos. And he goes to Franz Beckenbauer, and he's just like, what was it? He's like, Giorgio wants the ball in front of him. You do those nice passes, pass it so it lands in front of his feet. Something like that. And Franz Beckenbauer. And Franz Beckenbauer just nodding. He's like, yeah, I try. Because Franz Beckenbauer was very polite. I'm sure in his mind, he's just like, you fucking idiot. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Of course I'm trying to pass in front of. That's what I do all day. So
you mean not behind the direction he's going? Oh.
Also, Giorgio Canalia can wait an extra second and great. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I love it. So to me, that's like Jason Christ going to David Villa to be like, remember, you're going to be up top.
There are some
goals for us. Yeah.
There are some cringy moments like that. I would like to rewatch that actually. But yeah, so Jason Christ is not the answer.
Well, so here we go. That's what I was going to say. I'm hesitant with Jesse Marsh because Jesse Marsh is the American, and Greg Berhalter is trying to be this. There's an era of what do they call like personality coaches, like Jurgen Klopp and Pep are like primo. Everyone's trying to be Jurgen or Pep, right? It's the Antonio Conte, the era of the personality coaches where it's like their style, like an auteur. And Jesse Marsh is like the American version of that. Jesse Marsh puts a stamp on his teams of how he plays, right? It's a Jesse Marsh coach. It's high speed Red Bull. You can score 3 goals against us as long as we score 4 goals against you. Style of play. And that suits the club game really well. But I've never seen that suit the national team game much ever. Have you? Usually the national team game,
the high intensity,
just the extreme tactics and style. It's like I really think you just need a man manager, and I think these 4 years with Greg has made that clear. It's like I'm glad we did Greg. Like you said, Greg did fine, but I would love a change. But for the next 4 years, I'd rather have a coach who sort of gets out of the way of the tactics and just as a man manager, kind of like Bruce was in his best days, and just puts players, sets them up to succeed.
Didier Deschamps. You want Didier Deschamps.
Perhaps, Didier Deschamps or something like that. And Jim Curtin, I think, was a better shout at that.
I guess I would like a little more ambition than that. I think Didier Deschamps can get away with that because he has the most incredible squad in the history of soccer to choose from. So he can just if things are not working, he just subs out 5 people and then let you figure it out.
That's 5 more work.
And so I don't know. I don't know if that's it's.
Listen, but what was Didier Deschamps' strategy? What was Lionel Scaloni's strategy?
I think overall we definitely saw a little less pressing in this World Cup of these than we do on average, I would say, than we do at the club level. In terms of intensity and.
I think because you can't. Like, what was Argentina's strategy? They won the World Cup. What was their strategy? Describe how they played.
Well, they have Messi. That also helps. But they were very but they were but they had it was they were just a cohesive unit. Like a lot of national teams, it's hard to get them to play together, and so then sometimes you're just relying on individuals. But Argentina was they played together very well. They had each other's they were playing for each other. I mean, and their setup was simple. It's not like. But I mean, it's not like, I think that's also overstated, this idea of the system, Greg Burrell, being so complicated or like people couldn't figure it out. Like, I don't know. You always need some kind of a setup, right? You're not just going to, I mean, I guess Klinsmann would do that or the Klinsmanns and the Deschamps of the world. They're just like, go out and go hard, do your best,
Do it hard.
Run hard and like, I'm sure that there is some of that. I mean, I don't know. I like a little more ambition, a little more creativity. This doesn't have to be at the expense of the players. I mean,
you know who's going to bring that ambition? David Moyes. He's going to come out with this haggis. He's going to give it.
We'll see. I mean, let's see who it's going to be. I guess we'll follow it. We'll follow it with interest.
Going back to the movie talk, and the Schnitzel Boys with Cosmos documentary, great documentary. I haven't seen it. Go watch it. Beautiful documentary.
Once in a lifetime, yeah.
And David Hershey, who was a big part of that documentary, this segues to another topic I want to talk about. I'll say that for a second. But have you ever seen a 2014 German World Cup movie, like them winning the World Cup? It's like a German movie. I forgot what it's called.
No.
It's not a good movie. I was going to say it's like fluffy and it's just a bunch of highlights. It was bad, but the 2006 movie where we didn't win, Ein Sommermärchen, that was a much better.
Oh yeah.
You ever see that one?
That was good. Yeah, that was great.
It's funny how 2014 was a better tournament for us versus 2006, but the 2006 movie was just a much better movie. So because you mentioned the whole win document on NYCFC, some are hit and miss, but they can be made well, like the Cosmos doc.
Oh, for sure. It can be.
Because 2006 we had Kahn versus Lehmann. They had the whole like the renovation. They had cleanse. Like,
Well,
there's a
also
lot going on in
the
2006.
country, you know, it was just an exciting
They were hosting it.
time.
Right.
It was they were the hosts, and no,
Mantle
it's
was
true. Yeah,
involved.
those are interesting. I would rewatch both of those. Yeah, the 2014. That was a fun tournament.
Those were good days. Maybe we'll
Now,
bring them again.
do you know that show on Amazon, All or Nothing? You know, where
Yeah, didn't they
they always pick out they did Man City at some
They did
point.
Bayern München this year, right?
Well, they did. Apparently, they did the German national team during the World Cup.
This past summer?
Yeah.
Really? So we're going to see that next year?
We're going to see that. I guess the premise of that was like, oh, this is the team going to redeem itself after
redeem team.
It did not happen. So I don't
know. I look
know.
forward to seeing that.
I'm not sure what they're even going to make out of this, but that's apparently coming out. So
I think there was a Bayern München one. Didn't they just do Bayern München?
I think it was Dortmund. No, it was Dortmund at some point. I think Dortmund was the German.
Season 2 of Dortmund, which I saw, which was fine.
I don't remember them doing Bayern. I thought it was. Well, anyway, now they did the.
What I will say is we live in a time of really great soccer content. On Netflix, there's the Figo Affair, a great documentary. Maradona in Mexico is such a great freaking series. If you haven't seen that, watch that. Follows Diego Maradona coaching Sinaloa in Mexico. A lot of great soccer content, just behind the scenes soccer content available these days, and so much fun. And the Dortmund stuff's good, and I can't wait to see this German national team stuff. But going back to the Cosmos documentary, David Hershey wrote a really, really, really great in-depth. I'm a big U.S. soccer nerd, as you know, Bjorn.
Yeah.
And David Hershey, who's like one of my sources, wrote this really long and detailed article about Pele coming to America because he was there. And it's on ESPN FC. I highly recommend reading it. It's like a little bit of a mini book. It's like an essay about Pele's first press conference at the 21 Club in New York. It's a great read.
That sounds good. Do you have a Pele documentary to recommend? I was wondering.
Well, I want to talk about Pele for a bit.
Let's go.
Rest in peace.
Yeah,
the greatest Pele passed away on Netflix. The Pele documentary on Netflix is really great. It follows his time as a soccer star in relation to the Brazilian military regime at the time, which I didn't know much about. Pele, as everyone knows, is a soccer super idol, but a lot of people forget that when he was coming up in Brazil was in this weird South America in general caught fascism. When World War II ended, fascism ended in Europe, but it did not end in South America. It sort of caught legs in South America. And a lot of South America led into fascist dictatorships all over the country, all over the continent, excuse me. I couldn't tell you how many, but a lot of South American countries were being ruled by a military dictatorship, including Brazil. And so Pele was this national icon, and he kept having to balance his relationship with the military dictatorship versus the people and things like that. And the documentary dives into that a little bit. And it's it's very interesting. The other cool thing about Pele is most of the shit he did is untelevised because he did his entire career in a tiny club in Brazil, in Santos.
Yeah, there's
unheard
a
of
lot
today.
of footage. Yeah.
And, you know, Brazilian media at that time was pretty hit or miss. You know, this would have been the 50s and the 60s, late 50s throughout most of the 60s. You know, a lot of that stuff was on radio or a lot of the footage was lost. So, like, his prime years, most people's exposure to Pele is just at the World Cups, really. They didn't see a lot of his club work. And it's so it's very understated. Like, I think sometimes he gets an unfair rap when people are like, I don't know, maybe Maradona was better or maybe Messi is better. It's like, nah, not to me. Pele is the king. He's the king to me because he did it before everybody else.
Yeah, there's definitely especially now that there were a lot of tributes on Twitter, and there are those people who are like, well, he couldn't get a starting job in League One these days. And I mean, just be quiet. Like
but that's also the wrong, it's a different time. It's
a very different time. And he I mean, look it up though. Look it up if you have any questions. Look up what obviously it's apples and oranges. The whole system was different. But it also, people were like, oh, he was in the Brazilian league. The Brazilian league was perhaps the top league back
At that
then.
time, yeah,
At
all the
that
World
time,
Cup winners
this
played
was
in it.
before.
So,
This was before. Yeah, this was before the Premier League, before the Bundesliga. The Bundesliga, I guess, at some point, the Bundesliga came around during his career.
Bundesliga
But
was in 1963.
1963, yeah.
Right.
So
Brazil had 2 World Cups. Pele already had 2 World Cups
at that point. Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's not, and he played a lot of friendlies, so his goal tally is inflated, and sure. I mean, it's not the same thing, obviously, but he is the king, and he continues to be the king. And if
but
you look,
he's one of those freak of natures. Like, it's not like he comes from a training program. He was just a really poor kid. His mom, I think, was a cleaning lady to a richer family, and he played without shoes on. I think that's where Pele, his nickname, comes from, because he was barefooted. He was barefooted because he couldn't afford shoes, and he just liked to play. And then in 1950, when Brazil lost the World Cup, he saw his father crying. He was 9 years old, and he was like, "Don't worry about it, Dad. I'll win the World Cup for you. Don't worry about it." 8 years later, a little 17-year-old kid goes to Sweden. A 17-year-old kid from Brazil, a kid of color, goes to freaking Gothenburg, and he just destroys each and every single one of them. He's like, this is how this works. Boom, bing, bomb, and destroys at 17. Who's ever done that? That's a freak of nature doing that. And then in 1970, he did it again when people thought maybe he was a little past his prime. He's like, past my prime. Yeah, oh yeah. And then he was part of the 1970 Brazilian World Cup squad, which is considered by many to be the best World Cup team of all time, with Carlos Alberto and Vavá and Rivellino and all those guys. The dude was always a legend. And then when he was 11 months retired and fat, some guy from New York called him, and he went to New York at 34, and he invented American soccer. He's the reason this all exists. He's the reason I'm here. He's the reason this is here. He's the reason you're an NYCFC fan. Like without him, all that didn't exist. The impetus, that would never have happened. NASL probably would have folded by 1975, and American soccer would have been way deader than it's ever been. And there likely would never have been a U.S. World Cup or an MLS after that. That he was pretty important, I would say. So because of that, and because of the time he lived in, and because of his off-field behavior, like, when has he ever been a whiner? When has he ever been a diva? When has anyone ever said a bad thing about Pele? Pele was always good to go. He was always a nice dude. He went everywhere. He was very positive. Like, when he died, there was this picture of him with his white suit with an American flag tie, holding Whitney Houston's hand, running with her at the World Cup opening ceremonies. And I was just like, that's Pele, man. It's just a big old world of love and positivity. And Neymar had this great tribute to him where he's like, before Pele, 10 was just a number and soccer was just some sport. He's like, Pele made 10 important and took the sport of soccer and turned it into something else. And he's right. He's very much correct, I think. Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. Do you want another trivia? I love giving you trivia. This is not American trivia.
Will I ever know an answer to one of your questions? Maybe this will be the year for me.
You're never gonna know the answer to this, but it's so funny because it's very Schnitzel. This is a very German Brazilian trivia question. So think German. You think this? Before Pele, long time ago, in the 30s, the first Brazilian superstar was named this. Who was the first Brazilian superstar before Pele? Who was Brazil's first soccer superstar?
Hansen.
Close. You're just naming some random German name. His name is, get this, Arthur Friedenreich.
Oh.
Brazil's first great soccer star was a guy named Arthur Friedenreich.
Was he was a Nazi refugee?
He was a Nazi colonel who, no, I'm joking. I don't know. I think he's even Austrian. A lot of Austrians and Brazilians moved to South America. So I think he's an Austrian-born Brazilian or German-born Brazilian. I should maybe look this up. But he was a Brazilian native, born and raised, or he's Brazilian. He played for the Brazilian national team, and he scored like 1 million goals from them, and he led them to a third-place finish in the 1938 World Cup, which was the first time Brazil sort of showed up. That was the first time Brazil had like a national team that actually could compete. And that was Brazil will call it O Descoberta do Brasil, the discovery of Brazil. That was Brazil's first World Cup, because before that it was all Argentina and Uruguay. Brazil wasn't a thing. Brazil showed up a little bit later. And Arthur Friedenreich was the leader before little Pele came and took over.
All right.
Another trivia question
that I didn't know. I guess in that sense, 2023 is going to be a lot like 2022.
I got another one for you.
Oh, here we go.
This you should know. Maybe.
All right.
So Pele, quote unquote, won 3 World Cups, right? 58, 62, and 70. However, he wasn't really involved in 62. As I don't know if you know about that. He got injured. And he only played like 1 game or something. And in Brazil, or in the world of football, it is said that Diego Maradona single-handedly won the World Cup in 1986. This other player single-handedly won the World Cup in 1962 as well for Brazil. And in Brazil, people often debate between this person and Pele being the greatest player of all time, as opposed to elsewhere where they debate between Maradona and Pele. In Brazil, the debate is between Blank and Pele. Who do you think is better, Blank or Pele? Who was Blank?
Pele is better. You think you're talking about Garin? How do you say his name? Garrincha?
Yo, you got it. Garrincha. You got it.
Garrincha. All right.
Garrincha, the other Brazilian legend at that time, who died young. He was a man who loved alcohol. He was a huge old raging alcoholic. He had rickets. He was born with severe rickets, so he had really effed up legs, all contributing to his legend. And he was Brazil's best player and essentially won that World Cup by himself. Garrincha, the legend of Garrincha. He died shortly thereafter. But so, yeah, another little trivia. So before Pele was Friedenreich, and during Pele was Garrincha.
All right. Thanks. Thank you for giving me one that I knew.
Yeah, you got it. 50%. Well done.
All right. Rest in peace, Pele.
Yeah. Well, do you have any thoughts of Pele? Franz Beckenbauer just tweeted a nice thing. Calling his brother
I thought what you said was great. I got annoyed. I got annoyed by the people who I mean, it's just tiresome to have these debates. Even like, who is the best? Is this the best? Is the best? But speaking of people who are not the best, what I enjoyed this week was reading these articles about how Ronaldo almost came to Sporting Kansas City. Have you read? Have you read?
Yeah. I think the quote was like something about like Kansas City fits the right mold. And as a joke, I wrote in the comments on Facebook, I'm just like, it was a typo. They meant a Sporting Kansas City smells like mold or something like that. Ew.
I mean,
I would have loved for that to be. What if it happened, Bjorn?
What a wild alternate universe.
He's Tam. He's not even a DP. What if he went to Sporting Kansas City as Tam, and we're like, man, have the mighty fallen? I mean,
Peter Vermees coaching Ronaldo. I mean, I would pay for that. I would pay money to see that.
But in Saudi Arabia, he's making $3.5 million a week. Sporting Kansas City, how much would he have made? He would have made like what is $3.5 million a week? That's $150 million. That's a lot of money.
It really seems like I don't know. Yeah, it's I mean, this is basically the end, right? We're never. I mean, I'm not gonna.
Saudi Arabia means bye-bye. It means I don't have to hear about him ever again because A, who watches Saudi Arabia, B, who reports on it. I mean, how many players, like when Stefan Effenberg played in Qatar, I didn't see any of those games. I never heard about that before. No. Saudi Arabia is where you go. Like, it's probably good for him to increase his exposure in the Middle East.
Well, I mean,
the Middle East is closed to us. We don't hear anything about it.
I think they have ambitions, of hosting the World Cup and all those things. But as of we'll see. Well, I mean, he's going to Saudi Arabia. Messi wins the World Cup. So alternate paths.
Alternate paths. I'm trying to make sure Messi makes his way to Miami pretty soon. That's what I want to see.
We'll see. Yeah, I think that could happen.
Him loved
But,
around Stadium in Columbus Crew and starting every game with his face in his hands and walking around the field doing this the whole time.
I mean, Messi
I
in
can't wait to see
Miami,
that.
Messi in Miami, and Ronaldo at SKC. Amazing. Yeah, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of, right? This is the season. The preseason starts in a few weeks. This is gonna be transfers galore, right? NYCFC is where there's still question marks over a lot of. We could be losing 7 of our starters in the Philly game. I think I said that previously, and it seems nothing has changed. There's Maxi Morales is officially gone. I mean, what a champ, that guy. Just an absolute.
The NYCFC Messi, Maxi Morales.
I mean, it's a little feels a little we're talking about Pele and Messi and Maxi Morales. Not quite on that same level.
But for your needs.
But in my world, he's has as big a place in my heart as both of those guys. And Tinnerholm is gone. We still haven't heard anything about Sean Johnson. We heard a little bit about Alex Collins. Supposedly they're still negotiating, and so that he still could come back. I think Santi Rodriguez is gone, which I don't know.
How old is Collins?
He's 28, I think.
Pay the man.
20.
Well, DP
here's the thing.
Right?
No, here's the thing. The problem is, yes, I agree with you, maybe, except we gave a DP contract to Thiago Martins, another center back. There's no.
Yeah, but doesn't he suck? Sell Thiago Martins. Wasn't he a little bit of a flop?
He was okay. I mean, it's his first year. Usually, people get better in year 2. Right. I mean, it usually takes a year to adjust. He had some moments. He started very poorly. He had some. I mean, he basically lost us that the Champions League semifinal. And he had some. He had some poor games. But he was pretty solid towards the end. I think he's going to be good. But I don't think we just get rid of him. He has a contract. I don't know. That's not usually how it works. And so it's hard to imagine having 2 DP center backs.
This ain't 1960s Brazil. This is 2022 Brazil. So being a key young player from that league isn't necessarily a guarantee that you're going to hit in MLS. Well, we have that in Red Bulls.
He was coming from Japan. He was coming from Japan, actually.
Oh, that's even worse because
he was playing in Japan. I don't know. It's not. It's just it's a cap. It's a cap issue, right? Like we already spent big on one center back. We're not going to spend all our money on center backs supposedly. But from his perspective,
just do the thing all the other clubs do: pay him $100,000 a year, but then say when you go on to Late Show with David Letterman, we'll give you $10 million an appearance or something.
If this could be. If this could happen, then we had this trade out of left field, which I'm hoping is perhaps related, where Haber went to Seattle.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
I
thought Haber was going to retire or something.
That was completely wild. Why would he retire?
You know who else Seattle's taking, and this might be in preparation. There's very, very strong rumors for a while now that Seattle's about to sign my Aaron Long. They're about to take my Aaron Long from me, Mullet McGee. Which is weird because from what I understand, Seattle already has pretty settled center backs. So I don't know, maybe for competition or something. But Seattle, especially with Aber, Seattle has had no competitive games. I don't think they've even had any training games. And they play in the FIFA Club World Cup in a month, right? Or something?
Club World Cup, yeah.
Soon. They have to go to Morocco. So is it Morocco? They have to go to Morocco in a month and play. And I'm rooting for them because I'm excited to finally see an MLS club at the FIFA Club World Cup again. Forever. I don't think I've ever seen that. I'm really excited. So go Seattle, but they don't look, especially with the second half of last season. I don't know. We'll see what's going on with Seattle.
I mean, Haber's going to be good for them. Doesn't have to be their main striker. Excuse me. I'm starting too now.
Oh, you caught it from me?
I'm catching your cold. How's that possible? Through the internet?
This is a great program.
This StreamYard, man, is the next level.
Tell you, they get
transmit illness. Wild. So,
Aber, they might have just signed Aber for the tournament. It was done. They're like, all right, you're
he
done.
doesn't have to,
Bye.
you know, they have Rui Diaz, so he's going to come off the bench or be the arcade. You know, Rui Diaz misses a lot of time. He gets hurt. And I think he's going to be great for them. People were like, there were some Seattle people on Twitter expressing disappointment. I'm like, send him back. You don't want him. Like he's been awesome. He's
a perfect off the bench.
He had injury issues. Yeah. He was in 2019. He had an MVP level season almost. Like he was incredible when he first arrived, and then he had a big injury, but even when he came back, he was mostly a backup to Tati Castellanos. But then when Tati left, he kept scoring. He kept scoring at a good clip. I think he's a great signing for them. And if the rebuild is on anyway, I guess it was also time for us to let him go. But I'm hoping that this is maybe the gam we needed to put into Alex Kahn's pocket.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I think the Collins Johnson, it's going to make the difference between, if they both not come back, then it's a total rebuild. If they both come back, the defense is mostly intact. So
on the other side of the river, we're good to go. All right, brace yourselves.
You got everything. You got everything you need.
We signed Corey Burke from Philadelphia Union, so everybody watch out. That's done. Essentially, that's all we need. We're done. Our offseason is complete. So
I'm done making fun of Corey Burke because he really hurt us this year.
But I will say, even though I'm joking, half joking, the reality is he's a great signing, and we should have had him a year ago. He's exactly the kind of dude we're supposed to. I mean,
I made fun of him. I made fun of him a lot because he usually came off the bench for them. He looks like he can barely walk. Like he's got this sort of stork-like.
He's a guy that we need, which is just like a 29-year-old MLS experienced player who's decent, like especially for number 9. Because like our only options forever were Patrick Klimala or Tom Barlow. It's like neither of those worked. We had Brian White, who was great off the bench, but you freaking got rid of him. And now we're getting Corey Burke, and we're about to, I think, finish signing Eloy Manuel from Brazil, who we had for us for a bit last year.
Okay.
I think he's about to move permanent. He's also kind of like your Thiago Martins theory. You know, he was mixed maybe last year, but time to last with the pace and the speed in the New Jersey. You got to figure all that out first. And so now we have season 2 of Manuel coming up. So that's 2 new number 9 options have for the next year.
Yeah, we got nobody. I don't think. I mean, I hope we're not hoping for Thales Magno to be the 9. I think he's better on the wing. And we need big signings. We don't have really any. We need a 9 and a 10. We don't have really any Maxi. I think Santiago Rodriguez was Maxi's backup, and him not coming back. We need a Maxi and a Tati, and then we need a backup Maxi and a backup Tati. Yeah. So
look at those from your. The other thing is the New York Red Bulls signed a 17-year-old from the same town Tyler Adams is from. I'm excited about that. That's what I want to see. I want to see who the new kids are. You know what I mean?
Well, we drafted Malcolm Johnson, Alistair's brother.
Oh, from where? Remember?
From what college?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Rutgers or something. Our top draft pick was a goalkeeper, I think. So it shows you how much we, I guess they had a reason as to why they drafted, but
the transfer rumors have been sparse. I think we're signing an 18-year-old right back from
China,
Slovakia. He has sort of an Eastern European sounding name that I can't remember. It's not official. This is just so that's the only name I've heard kicked around. And
so how about this? Yeah. What if I go to the Cupcake Gigs and it's just like all the MLS managers sitting in the stadium, and when the game was over, just run to the field and start offering contracts to the guys they like from the team.
Yeah,
just to be like, stay here, play for us.
There's not going to be a lot of offensive quality there to sign. I think you could find some good defenders there, but not.
St.
we'll
Louis
see.
is
I mean,
still building. Right?
it's going to be exciting. It's a little sad, and it's also exciting at the same time. So we'll see.
St. Louis that's this really exciting offseason because they've been building for a long time
Yep.
under Lutz Pfannenstiel. They had a lot of, they've had some weird signings. They spent all their money on a Swiss goalkeeper who hasn't played in a year.
Yeah.
Let's see. They just brought in a whole bunch. They brought in Nicholas Giacchini, Indiana Vasilev, which I like. Jared Stroud, former New York Red Bull, not terrible. And then Tim Parker, also former New York Red Bull. They brought some decent experienced folks, but then a lot of unprovens. So they have a German player named Max Schneider. And they have Edvard Löwen, of course. Wasn't he formerly from Bochum, or am I wrong?
From Bochum, yeah.
From Bochum.
No, you're right.
And then their Brazilian DP's name is Klaus, just to keep the Germanness going. They have the Swiss keeper. So, I'm very curious about St. Louis City SC. Klaus was signed from Hoffenheim, Lutz's old stopping grounds. So, seems like this is kind of like the New York Red Bulls, just a bunch of European obscurers, a couple MLS decent guys. Bradley Carnell is a good Red Bull coach. He's former Red Bull coach. I think they're going with the old budget, high press, chaos ball philosophy. And we're curious how it'll work for them in their first season. See if Roman Berkey was worth all that money.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not these transfers are also, it's sometimes hard in January for MLS clubs to sign people, right? Like, there's not always a lot of availability. They're not often quick to arrive. I'm bracing myself for NYCFC for things to be pretty dire until at least the summer.
It's also very interesting because the World Cup just finished. Shouldn't there be sort of a cash grab or like if I'm an MLS club, shouldn't I have been scouting the World Cup and maybe finding who's low or who's on a expired contract?
I'm assuming there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that we're now going to start hearing about. But I often have thought that, and then sometimes it takes until late February. Last year and the year before, it was like late February, March that we signed people. Like, I don't know. It doesn't always work that way. So patience, I guess. Patience is the name of the game, and we could face our first significant down year. That is a possibility.
Yeah, same. With Red Bulls, it's that thing where it's like, we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll do the thing where we make our way into the playoffs again. We just don't have the depth of firepower to get past the conference semifinals. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe Corey Burke will have been the missing piece of our success puzzle. One could hope. We'll see. There's rumors that Carlos Coronel is going to Austria, or so. I think Las Glins wants him. And I'll tell you, Coronel is a great goalkeeper. I like Coronel a lot, and I would love to keep him. I really hope we get our hands on him. Just like I hope we kept Aaron Long. It's a shame in addition to Seattle, he's linked to Miami. Apparently he's linked to Mexico, and apparently he's also linked to, get this, England and Saudi Arabia. Aaron Long has also been linked to Saudi Arabia.
It's going to be Ronaldo's pal.
What if he goes to El Nasser? That might be it. If I'm Aaron Long, right? How old is he? 29, 30, 31? And I was on the bench of the World Cup, and I'm not getting any younger. And I have this $3 million a week contract. Maybe that's not much, but it's probably plenty. Big money contract in Saudi Arabia. Maybe I'd go, right? For an adventure. Why not? Make a lot of money, have an adventure, figure it out. It's not like you're pissing anything away.
Say goodbye to your national team career, which is probably over anyway. Maybe
I was gonna say, like, does he have much of a future national team career moving forward? I don't think so. With all these new young center backs that Chris are getting healthier coming up the pike, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's always a question, right? Like, you get he's wanted to go to Europe for competitive reasons, right? He's not. I guess that's sort of.
But here you go. But at this point, his offers are they don't say the Prem, they say from England. So I imagine it's a championship club. A couple championship clubs are interested. Maybe Swansea or something. I don't know. Who's had linked to Americans before?
Yeah,
so you think would I go to Swansea for a championship contract?
That's a grind. Yeah, for sure. But
or do I go to El Nasser for $1 million a month and there's absolutely no competition there, and I'm taller than everybody, so I'd be fine. I don't know. Which one would you do? Aaron Long's a tall dude. I don't know. A Saudi club hires him.
Everybody's short in Saudi
Cristiano
Arabia.
Ronaldo.
I don't know. Yeah,
we have a solution to Cristiano Ronaldo. Aaron Long.
He needs somebody to defend. Yeah, somebody's got to play defense on that team.
If I'm Aaron Long's agent, I'm like, go Middle East, my friend. Go to Saudi Arabia. You just in Qatar.
I guess it depends on it depends on what you want of life. I don't know. I don't think. I mean, I would.
Where would you rather go?
I would avoid
Cardiff,
living in the
Seattle or Riyadh. What are your if you had to pick between the three? Seattle is $500,000 a year. Cardiff is $900,000 a year, and Riyadh is $1 million a month, $12 million a year.
I guess
where would you go?
I guess I'll go to Cardiff then.
Really? Okay. All right.
I don't know. I don't think. I don't know. I would avoid the Middle Eastern oil money if I could. I don't know.
All right. Good man. You're a good man. I'd probably go there.
I don't know.
But remember, you're 30 and your career, like your national career is kind of over with. You did your MLS.
$1 million a year is also good. How much money does one need?
It's 12 times that in Saudi Arabia in my fictitious scenario.
Well, in your fictitious, you don't know that's
inflation.
True. They're not paying anyone. They're not paying everybody Ronaldo's salary.
But I'm sure foreigners get a chunk.
Aaron Long doesn't get the same endorsement deals as Ronaldo.
But in a league like that, like I think in Korea and Japan, they only have a couple foreign slots, and those guys get the big bucks. So it won't be Cristiano Ronaldo money, but it'll probably be some pretty sweet money, more than MLS is willing to pay, I'm sure. So let's assume it's $1 million a month, which is what it was 20 years ago. But that's 20 years ago. So now I'm assuming that's just chump change for them now. Let's pretend that's what's going on.
We'll see. We'll see what Aaron decides.
I would choose Saudi Arabia in a heartbeat. And I would, just so I could save money and come back and buy the biggest mansion in New Jersey and the biggest Ferrari. Just could be like, good, I'm done. I'll just live off this and coast rest of my life. I don't have to teach junior soccer clinics in Hoboken. I can.
But he doesn't have to do that in either scenario.
Maybe he does. I would be a bad agent. I'd be like, you're only 2 years until you start teaching soccer clinics in Rehoboth.
Yeah, take the money, man.
I want my 10%. You go over there. Yeah. All right,
Mussolini is looking for a team to play on his yacht for his entertainment. He pays
100%.
He pays $5 million a year. Yeah, let's do it.
In the early 90s, the entire Colombian soccer scene was funded by the drug lords, and they would ship in those players for the weekend for fun private games.
Happens. But I think those. I would avoid those situations when possible myself.
I get flown into the oil fields. Gianni Infantino's sitting there. Salt Bay is there cutting his beef next to him or whatever. And they're just throwing dollar bills at us on the field while we're playing.
Throwing salt at you.
And how he cuts. For the podcast, we're doing weird rhythmic cuts. I love the FIFA's going to conduct an internal investigation on how we got on the field. And then like a minute later on Twitter, it's just a footage of him cutting steak and Gianni Infantino being like, you're the best. I love you. You're our best friends with me. Like, okay, I think
we're all trying. It's that it's that meme with I think you should leave, right? With the guy in the hot dog suit. So we're all trying to find the guy who did this.
I put your Hercule. I got my Benoit Blanc hat on.
We're all trying to figure out who.
I wonder how that happened.
Going. How could this?
If you guys have any leads, let us know because that's a big mystery.
Yeah. All right. Have we done it?
I think we did it. We did a New Year's episode. We didn't even talk about Dinner for One.
Oh, Dinner for One, right.
The name of the episode is a German New Year's tradition of an English sketch.
Yeah, it's an English
It's a weird
sketch
thing.
every year. I mean, there's not that much to say about it. Look it up, Dinner for One. It's funny.
Google it, yo. All right, everybody. It's been Schnitzel Boys. We're back. New year, new league. We got Leagues Cup. We got Seattle and Morocco.
Apple. All the games on Apple.
All the games on Apple. We got Fox's new linear deal. So much fun.
Bundesliga
fun.
starts up again.
Bundesliga starts up again in a couple weeks at some
In-
point. We'll see what's going on over there. All right. Tschüss. Bis nächste Woche.